You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Good morning. Welcome to Matt and Air on Air. Jane Matt and Air, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butonoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. Call, text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Coming up later on this hour after the 10:30 news, we are going to learn about the We Got This Garden in Milwaukee. Alex Brosnan is the executive director of We Got This. It's a chance to get kids involved in growing their own food.
Nice.
Which is a really great thing. So we're going to talk to Alex all about We Got This. And thank you to the listener who sent us this contact, by the way, said you should talk to these people.
And how can people, Jane, if they want to send us an idea for a guest, an idea for a segment, or maybe send us a this shouldn't be a thing suggestion, how would they go about getting in touch?
The easiest way to contact this program, super easy. Jane Says, send an email to Jane Says, JANESAYS, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. Like Greg said, if you ever have a guest that you think we should talk to, if there's something going on in your town, it might be Oshkosh, could be Hayward, could be anywhere.
Where anywhere
in
Wisconsin.
Absolutely. Or maybe you have a business that you think should get highlighted on Beyond the Cheese, where we have a business on once a month outside of the dairy industry. Just send all that stuff to Jane Says at civicmedia.us. Wanted to start off with this. We've been talking a lot about the budget bill that is being debated as we speak in Washington right now, and also the state budget bill, which today's the deadline. They can't come to an agreement today, then we're just going to go back to previous spending limits. This is from WPR, a program supporting Wisconsin kids for the last 20 years is now at risk of losing its dedicated federal funding. Community learning centers serve 20,000 kids at over 160 sites across Wisconsin. The federal program supports kids at high poverty schools through before and after programs offering academic and social programs and free meals for kids who need it. Last year, the State Department of Public Instruction got about $19 million to fund it. Donald Trump's budget will eliminate this grant. That's the only federal funding stream dedicated to this after-school and summer learning programs.
$19 million.
Which is it's pittance.
It's not even. It's
a pittance.
It is so many zeros after that decimal point when it comes to the totality of the U.S. budget. Which I think when we talked about it last week, we were talking about a $33 million cut to a $7.6 trillion budget spending plan. $19 million.
$19 million. And I guess what is astonishing to me as we talk about this more and more and more, and we talk about these cuts, 12 million here, 19 million there. They're doing all these cuts, and yet this bill is going to raise the deficit by like $3 trillion.
$3 trillion, and that is something that Republicans have said out loud. This is not a Democratic talking point. This is not liberal.
Tom Tillis said that out loud.
Tom Tillis. There have been plenty of Republicans. The CBO has said this, and you know, I hate to belie the point again and again and again, but these cuts we hear about just are based in cruelty. Like this is, they just want to cut anything that helps people. $19 million to help kids, and you want to, again, we go over and over, Jane, about the long-term planning of it all, the lack of the long-range goals.
The lack of foresight.
At least from a political standpoint. From a political standpoint, say, hey, we kept this program. It was $19 million. We raised it to $22 million because it's still nothing. And we're going to take care of our kids. But you said it yourself, in high poverty schools. And The problem is Republicans, when they hear that, they think of Madison and Milwaukee immediately because, there's no poverty anywhere else.
Obviously not.
None.
No.
Everywhere else
just like there's no crime either anywhere else in Wisconsin except the two biggest population centers.
Yeah, so they hear that, and it's like, well, why would I cut that? Why would I keep that? Those kids, it's poverty schools. It's Madison, Milwaukee. They don't vote for us anyway, So all this comes to a point of these cuts just seem to be, Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, this poverty program, school for kids in poverty schools, this all is based in a level of cruelty that just seems exact and purposeful because they know that these individuals, these folks who take Medicaid, folks who take Medicare, folks who are on SNAP, they don't have bargaining power. They don't have lobbying money. They don't have the ability to walk into an office and get a meeting immediately with the person at the top. So why wouldn't they cut them? They're nothing. They don't matter to us. That's how I feel about it.
President Trump's budget will eliminate this grant again for after-school and summer learning programs. This is part of $12 billion cuts to the U.S. Department of Education that would start October 1st. This amounts to a 15% cut to the agency's budget. This would fulfill Trump's commitments to maintain funding to school districts serving kids from low-income families, but reflects an agency responsibly winding down.
Oh.
And let's not forget Donald Trump campaigned that he was going to eliminate the Department of Education. That's why Linda McMahon from the world of pro wrestling is heading up our Department of Education.
Don't forget, failed candidate for governor and senator,
I forgot.
too.
That's right, she did.
Yeah, and if you've watched the cavalcade of buffoonery that has been these budget talks, budget conferences they've been having with the Congress, whether it's RFK Jr., Kash Patel, but in this manner, let's talk about Linda McMahon. She knows nothing about this. This person is beyond not qualified, where she constantly has to look at the people around her for answers, get notes passed to her.
She gets note cards.
And when she's bereft of words, which coming from the world of wrestling is hilarious to me, but when she's bereft of words, she does the great thing of, I'll get back to you on that.
Well, they've all done that.
Yeah, just short of saying, can I get you an answer in 2 weeks?
That is pretty much the administration response to everything.
2 weeks, everybody.
Everything's coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be here in 2 weeks. Trump said that over the weekend, this TikTok deal.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We got
TikTok deal coming in 2 weeks. We got a buyer for it. I'll tell you who it is in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. It is not even a lack of long range planning, Jane. It's just a matter. It's not even a question for them. It's not even. They're not gaming anything out other than just staying in office. So
yes.
So here's the long range planning for them. It's staying in office. It's not the health of the country.
That is the plan. You're absolutely
it's not
right.
The people. It's not because when young children have the funding cut for their programs, you know what they immediately do? They reach down and they grab them bootstraps. They pull on them real hard, and they all become millionaires because that is the way America does it.
Well, get out in the fields, kids. Come on.
Yeah,
go start picking some stuff.
Make yourself useful.
In Wisconsin, more than 600,000 students have been served by community learning centers over the last 20 years. School leaders say families are going to get hurt if the grant is cut, and local funds can't make up the difference. Leighton Cooper, a rec coordinator with the Milwaukee Recreation Department, oversees these community learning centers. He says when we talk about the proposed impact this loss of money will have, the numbers speak for themselves. The rec department is part of Milwaukee Public Schools. It serves more than 5,000 kids at over 30 centers across the city. These cuts happen. These students will no longer have access to meals, recreation, or academic achievement. Do we want our kids to do better in school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I believe that's something, once again.
Or is the only answer private schools? The only answer now is privatization, and send them to it. Get a voucher. Send them to private school.
Yeah.
That's the only answer.
And as we know, Jane, that money just comes out of the sky. That's just sky money that comes down and pays for school. Oh, no, that's right. It's our tax money.
It is our tax money, yeah. In Green Bay, Amy Fish is the Associate Director of Community Partnerships for the Green Bay Area Public School District. She says she doesn't want to alarm families, but There are more than 800 students enrolled at community centers across Green Bay. They depend on about $600,000 in federal money, which Fish says cannot be replaced by local dollars. And again, $600,000 in the grand scheme of things is not that much.
$600,000. I mean, it's $19 million. It's $19 million. And before anyone says it, do not look to the state for help. They won't even give you $50 million for reading.
That they already approved.
Yeah. We spoke to Charlie Pittman earlier in the show in the last hour.
They've given out 10 million of it. The other 40 they're still sitting on.
And it goes away as of today.
As of today.
So they can pat themselves on the back and say, we gave you some money. And Robin Voss can say, we gave you more money than ever because you didn't give them any money in the first place. So 10 million is great, but that is 1/20th of what's available. The rest goes away. I think I did that math right. I had my head off the top of the dome.
Sounded good to me.
But do not look to the state for help. They will not give it to you. They don't want to pay for clean water or for education or hospitals. They're not going to get in the way. They're not going to start funding programs that help after-school kids in poverty schools. That's just not what's going to happen. This is going to go away. And people may lose their jobs, too, because if these programs pay those adults to be there to execute the programming, then they're going to be without a job. So, again, I'm not even talking about long-term planning. I'm just talking about like 6 months down the road. It's cruel.
Well,
it's just cruel.
But it's again, Doge came in with the mission of just cut things. So without looking at specifics, without going into the weeds about what does every agency do and who do they cover and what is covered and how does it work, they just went in with an axe and started hacking at stuff.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, the agency realized, oh my gosh, the guy who has the nuclear codes, we fired him 2 weeks ago. Maybe we should bring him back.
And if this is enraging you at all, if this is making you very upset, if this is frustrating you, or at least asking the question, you can go to myvote.wi.gov.
Take advantage of it.
Take advantage of it. Put your information in. They're going to give you a list of all of your representatives from your common council all the way up to the president. There are phone numbers provided. You call those offices. You tell them what's on your mind. If this is something, if you are a parent, a person, or if you're a child listening to this right now and you are affected by this, call your reps. Tell them how you're feeling. If enough people call, they sometimes take action.
Well, and I really do think that that's one of the reasons why this Mike Lee from Utah provision to sell off our public lands, I think there was so much pushback on it that they heard from so many constituents that they ended up pulling it out.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we make enough noise, it can actually make a difference.
If we all make a noise together, they can't not hear us.
Make a great noise.
I will never say that sentence again.
When we return, we didn't ask for this, but they're going to do it anyway.
Oh.
Stay close. You are listening to Matt and Air on Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Don't go away.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
Good morning. Welcome back to Matt and Air on Air. Jane Matt and Air, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching in the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Another way you can contact us. If you have the Civic Media app, not only can you call and text directly from the app, but now you can leave a voice note.
What?
So you download the Civic Media app, which is absolutely free. And once you pick your favorite station, which would be perhaps WAUK, where we broadcast. That's our signal that we broadcast on. You pick WAUK, and then you have three options that will come up, and you can call, or you can text, or you can leave a voice note.
Mm-hmm.
And you click that, and then you speak into your phone and record your message, and then you send it to us.
Yeah.
And we can listen back to it.
We appreciate that.
And then we can play it on the air.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty great.
I think it's another great way of getting in touch with us.
And a great way to take part in our wonderful contests. Fridays now, Free Ticket Fridays are back. So coming up this Friday, we will have a keyword for you from 9 to 11. You use the app to text that in, and you are in the running for a 4-pack of tickets to see the Milwaukee Brewers club level seats, baby. Free ticket Fridays. You get 5 chances, starting with Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, our show, Tom Hartman 11 to 2, then Todd 2 to 4, and Maggie Dawn 4 to 6 p.m. So just make sure you download that Civic Media app.
And something to remember for this week especially, I want to start saying this now so everyone remembers. This Friday is the 4th of July.
It is.
Jane, Calvin, and I will not be here. But not only will we have a highly curated best of episode for you, but there will be a keyword on that episode.
We're still having free ticket Fridays on Friday.
It's a new, fresh word. It will work in your phone. So still stay tuned. Listen for that show and listen for that keyword. And I just wanted to say that will be for the Friday, July 11th game against Washington. So,
nice.
Yes, free ticket Friday still happening, even though it's a holiday. And even though Jane, Calvin, and myself will not be here, keep it locked in always in Civic Media because it's going to be a great, fun episode. I hear that audio sorbet is something to behold.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
It's one of our favorites. Yeah. So join us coming up this Friday, 4th of July. We will be there to keep you company as you're having your cookouts in the backyard and whatever it is that you're
Maybe
going to be
you're
doing.
on a pontoon boat.
That would, ooh.
Where's my invite?
We need to be boated, Jason. That's what we need. Yes, as we mentioned before we went to the break, nobody asked for this, but they're going to give it to us anyway, Greg Bach. Congressman says nobody asked for the IRS to be Americans' tax preparer. Applauds efforts to shut down the IRS indirect file program. They had debuted this a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
You could file your taxes for free via the federal government. It was kind of a pilot program.
What I really love about that headline, because that is the headline, that is that is what he said. I'm just trying to find the actual, nobody asked for the IRS to be America's tax preparer. I don't know if this congressman knows how the internet works, because you file this message going out to Representative Jason Smith, who's from Missouri. You're not sending the information to a bunch of guys in a room who are writing things down. You're just putting it in a website.
You're filling out a form.
The form crunches the numbers, and then it gets sent to the IRS, and then it's at the IRS. But here's the thing, Jane, is you're eliminating a middleman.
Oh, what would that be like? I don't know, tax preparing companies like H&R Block and other companies that we have to pay TurboTax to file our taxes.
Yes.
Would they have perhaps been lobbying against this
for a long time,
yeah,
Jane?
Big shocker there.
Yeah, so I just love this idea because this just goes back to the notion of like the lawmaker a long time ago who said the internet's a series of tubes. Like, nobody asked for the IRS to be America's tax preparer. We're not asking the IRS to be our tax preparer. We're just saying, here's a website, put some numbers in, and there you go. If your taxes are super complicated, you have a tax person.
Right. And you're not going to be able to use this.
Yes.
But remember when Paul Ryan was still in office and he talked about the tax and spend and all? We're going to be able to fill out our taxes on a postcard, you guys.
Yep.
No. That still hasn't happened. And the direct file program was very, very popular, according to taxpayers and voters on all sides. There was a poll conducted in April. 82% of likely voters supported expanding direct file to all Americans. But it's okay, you guys. Mr. Smith, we didn't ask for it, so they're going to take it away.
Yeah.
Even though it was really popular and a lot of us would have liked to have seen it expanded.
Nobody asked for it. Maybe I know. Actually, that's not true. People have asked for it. There have been advocate groups who have asked for a system like this. So it has been asked for, and it has been used, and it has been liked by many
popular
people. So, Mr. Smith, I don't know who you're speaking to. Either you are inept of the info or lying to our faces. But again,
he's doing this for us, Greg. Last year, 90% of surveyed users about this direct file rated their experience as excellent or above average. So let's kill it.
Yep. This is more fraud, Jane.
I gotta take care of my donors,
Yeah.
my TurboTax people, and
That's
my
a good
H&R
question.
Block and all those. Yeah, let's find out who Mr. Smith's donors are.
Yeah.
We'll check on that. While we go to the news, stay close. You are listening to Matt Nair on Air on the vast, statewide, countrywide. You can get us global if you have the app. Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, and Cal B on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can join us, call or text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Delighted to be joined by our next guest. And thank you to Sue from Franklin, who is the one who emailed us at janesays@civicmedia.us and said, you should talk to these people. So Alex Bresnan is here. He is the executive director of We Got This Milwaukee. Alex, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing this morning?
Real good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Again, Sue one of our listeners had reached out to us and said, you should talk to this organization. They're fantastic. So tell us a little bit about We Got This in Milwaukee. And it's a gardening project essentially that you do, right?
Yeah, so we're located in the 53206 zip code. 53206 is the poorest zip code in the state of Wisconsin. And our zip code has over 800 vacant lots that the city owns. And it's a ton of land, a tremendous amount of land. And, anytime a piece of property isn't owned by an individual or an organization, I mean, it's taken care of, but it tends to be a liability
Yep.
more than an asset.
Sure.
And so, We Got This was started about 15 years ago by a man named Andre Lee Ellis, and we take vacant lots inside the city of Milwaukee, specifically right around our neighborhood, and we transform them into gardens. And we do that by employing young people from the neighborhood on Saturday mornings in the summer. So last Saturday or yesterday, or 2 days ago, we had about 150 kids come out, and they're slowly building out these garden spaces in the neighborhood.
That's really cool.
That's amazing.
That is cool. This must be a first for some of these kids to be this active in gardening, I would imagine.
Gardening and work in general. And I think as adults, we take for granted, we go to work, we do things, and we provide an income for ourselves and for our family. But kids in my neighborhood, I live around the corner from the We Got This garden. Kids in my neighborhood don't necessarily get that first opportunity. When I was 12, I was mowing my neighbor's lawn, and she gave me $10 after it. And you learn, okay, I do work that has a value, and that I'm paid for that work.
Right.
In our neighborhood, you don't have those opportunities. So yes, for many of the kids, it's their very first work opportunity, which is great. We love that because we get to teach them, here is how you work. There's a difference between work and play. And work requires effort, and we'll walk you through that process, but we do expect you to be working when you're at work.
Well, and it's, as you said though, Alex, it's just the basics of, you have to show up on time. You have people who
I have to tell you about that in a second.
Yeah, but I mean, I knew someone who was a teacher at a high school, and he was in charge of the theater department, and they had a spring play every year. And one year, the kid who was the lead actor in the play just didn't show up. And he said, well, I had something else to do. Well, it's a commitment.
Yeah,
you have to stay.
Yeah.
You have to stay with this.
And I'm really glad you brought up showing up on time. So we have a capacity at We Got This. So throughout the year, we collect donations, and the kids are paid through the donations to the organization. We're a 501c3. And so somewhere in the late winter, early spring, we set our capacity based, how much money we have divided by 12 weeks of the summer program. That's how many kids can show up.
Sure.
So our capacity is somewhere around between 125 and 150. And we have we've established a little bit of notoriety in the neighborhood to the point where kids are showing up earlier and earlier and earlier. The first kid showed up on Saturday at 6:00 in the morning, and we started at 8. So just to get a spot, and we reached capacity at 7:40. And unfortunately, we had to turn some kids away because only got so much money.
Right.
But yeah, it's and we expect, each week progressively throughout the rest of the summer that we'll reach capacity earlier and earlier, which has been what's happened historically.
So it's essentially, though, once you reach your max, that's it. That whoever shows up that day who wants to take part, you're going to take. It's first come, first serve.
Correct.
And are you seeing kids coming through like every week? Like you see the same faces coming through, and it's like a job to them. It's a once a week job for them. They're doing the thing, and I gotta get up at 5:30. Got to get over to the site and get my spot.
Yeah, we have a lot of regular kids. I would say about of the 150, about 20% were new this past week. So we still get some new kids, word of mouth. But we have a lot of returners, and this year we've really started to add different layers of leadership into the programming. And so we have dedicated student leaders that help lead little groups. I was a school teacher and an administrator for 15 years. And so we run it like you would run a school. So there's different classes that the kids go into, and that's just the group that they're a part of. But we have like some of that, some of those, what would be like the teacher of the group is a 19-year-old that was in the program the last 3 years. And so we try to keep establishing different layers of leadership so that, kids can kind of grow as we grow and then take on more responsibility.
That's so valuable, Alex. Geez, seriously, though, to give some of these kids the opportunity to learn what it takes to manage what it learned. I mean, it's just this hands-on experience that's just got to make such a difference for these kids. If you're just joining us, Alex Brosnan is our guest. We're talking about the We Got This Garden that is in Milwaukee and runs over the summer. And what do you hear from these kids after the first month? Say that they've been returning for a month. What are you hearing from some of these kids?
Well, when the kids get paid out at the end of the day on Saturday, I'm pretty aware of the fact that I have to ask them these specific questions. What did you learn? And then they'll tell me, okay, I learned, whatever the gardening task was. I learned how to plant potatoes because we planted potatoes yesterday. I would say, 9 out of 10 kids will tell you they had a good time. Because, work, you're supposed to enjoy the work that you do.
Right.
And as an adult, you strive for that, right? You want to be doing these things that you enjoy. And then we talk a ton about what you're proud of. Because most of the kids live in the neighborhood and they'll walk by we have a garden that we installed next to a liquor store. So we call it the liquor store garden. And so, some of the kids live next to the liquor store garden and walk by it all the time. And so you'll hear from them like, oh, I was walking by on Thursday and I saw the zinnias coming up because we're growing some flowers over there. And, they'll tell me, okay, well, I was reminded of when I put those boxes together or I filled those boxes or I planted those flowers. And so you can tell, it's doing something in the neighborhood in terms of creating a sense of pride in the community.
And it's something they're going to remember too. I mean, also just the notion of them walking past the garden and not just say to hear a child say the zinnias are coming in is something that would make me so happy. But also to look at it and be like, oh, I make sure next week you water it a little bit more or do this thing because I'm noticing they're also understanding the process of how plants and gardening works, that they can troubleshoot something maybe in someone else's garden. Like, oh, I used to work in a gardening place and I can tell you need more water or you need this soil. And that is something you can be proud of, but that's also an employable skill.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talk about that a lot, the little tasks that you do. All a job is a set of, or a series of little tasks that you do and you try to do them at a high level. And so you can take, what you learned here, you may not go and be a gardener, but if you work construction, you got to learn how to measure and cut and make sure that it looks right and, have a high attention to detail. And so we talk about all those things. So each at sort of towards the end of the workday, the kids sit in a circle with their group leader and we have a series of questions that they kind of run through, really because we want them to reflect on the experience that they're having. Yes, you get $20 and that's cool and fun. And we have a dedicated group of lunch ladies that come and provide lunch right at the end of it. But we want you to stop and think for a second, what did you do? How did you add value to the community? Because in our community, it's a struggle over here. There's not a lot of things that you can point at and look at and say, I added value to this. And this gives kids an opportunity to say that they were able to do that.
I know, and I don't want to say it's only $20. It's $20, and to a kid, $20 is a lot. Is there any talk about hey, what am I going to do with this $20? Am I going to?
That was my question too.
Spend $5 on myself, put $15 away, or do you have discussions on financial literacy with the pay they get?
Yeah, we do. We talk, and that's 2 of the 12 weeks we'll talk about some of those financial literacy components, assets versus liabilities, and how to avoid going into debt.
Nice.
And okay, now you have this $20 and you've come for 10 weeks in a row. Now you have $200. By the end of the summer, do you want $200 in your pocket to maybe buy yourself school clothes for the year, or do you want to spend it at the corner store on Flamin' Hots or whatever kids buy?
And is there more leaning towards the Flaming Hots? I'm just curious.
I think like I said, I worked in schools for a very long time, and part of my time was working at an alternative school, and you get some kids who have a really negative disposition towards school and work and sometimes just existing in the world.
Yeah.
But when you stop an individual and you have what you hopefully perceive to be a meaningful conversation with them about and help them think about what it might be like 10 weeks from now, to have something that's a little bit different than you have today, you'd be surprised. A lot of them will say, yeah, I saved up my 20s and I went, wherever I don't know where they go, but
right.
Wherever they go to buy, shoes or pants or clothes. A lot of times it's clothes for school.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I give them a lot of credit for that, because there are adults who cannot hang on to money and think about the long-term reward down the road.
Yeah.
So that's a really valuable thing. I just think what you're doing is so important, especially if you are not seeing that in your community or your family history.
Right.
It's just so important. Alex Brosnan is our guest. He is the executive director of We Got This Garden here in Milwaukee.
And I think that there must be some kids who think, I'm just going to go garden and get $20, and then after the summer, like, oh no, I've learned a whole host of things. Because that's the thing. Everything you've been talking to us about, Alex, is not just the gardening is a component, but it's a piece of the entire puzzle that they walk away and go, oh, I got lessons in life from this.
Yeah, whether they like it or not. I'm going to make sure that they get them.
I wanted to buy Takis, but man, I bought good shoes for school.
Instead, Alex, we only have about 2 minutes left. Is there a big banquet at the end of the summer? I mean, with all of this stuff that they've harvested and stuff?
So all the food is given out to the community. So kids take the food when it's harvested. They can take it home with them. Otherwise, it's just given back out to the community.
Awesome.
We do at the end of the season, we have just our end of the year celebration, and we'll do like a big back to school kind of giveaway. And so we'll source things. I should mention our website, wegotThisMKE.com. We have an Amazon wish list that will be more focused towards end of the year items. And we've a couple $1,000s worth of back to school items have been donated in the past, and we anticipate will be donated again just to give out to the kids. And so we do kind of a big celebration. We're
going to include your link in our show notes so people can find out how they if they want to get involved. Do you use volunteers? I would imagine you do.
Yeah, and actually, you called me the executive director, but I'm just a volunteer. We're all volunteers. We have no paid staff. 75% of our budget goes directly to the kids. The rest is to pay the taxes and the water and buy dirt. You got to buy dirt a lot. So, Jane, if a listener wanted to follow along, we have a podcast that kind of is like a weekly recap. It's called the 53206 cast. If a listener wanted to follow along, we give weekly updates on We Got This.
Fantastic.
I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Alex Brosnan is with We Got This Garden Milwaukee. It's been so interesting, Alex. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Coming up, we'll wrap up the show with This Shouldn't Be a Thing, Hush Your Mouth edition. Stay with us. You're listening to Matt Nair on Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
Welcome back to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, Calvinator on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. So great to talk to Alex Bresnan from We Got This Garden, Milwaukee. If you would like to learn more, check out the show notes at civicmedia.us. Greg is working on them as we speak. We have links to just about everybody that we talk to and articles that we talk about and all those things. You will find them at civicmedia.us. Click on shows and go to Matt Nair on Air. Tomorrow is July.
Whatever. Good Lord.
I remember at the end of June, or at the end of May, we said tomorrow is June. It's like, how did this happen? Yes, tomorrow is the 1st of July.
I remember when it was like, hey, 2025 is already here. My goodness.
Pat Kreitlow from Up North, or Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, will be joining us tomorrow after 9:35. He had a wonderful explainer last week about the Wisconsin Supreme Court decision regarding the maps in Wisconsin and some other things that the Wisconsin Supreme Court came down with last week. So Pat will be joining us tomorrow after the 9:30 news. I hope you can do so as well. Calvin, 10:54. That means it's time for
This Shouldn't Be a Thing.
As always, if you have a thing you think should not be, send it into Greg and me at Jane Says at civicmedia.us, JANESAYS, Jane Says at civicmedia.us. This is from Scripps News. Nobody with the byline. Headline reads,
Nobody wanted it.
Kings Island visitors warned to keep mouth closed on amusement park rides because of cicadas. This is from last month. Brood 14 out and about in Mason, bringing uninvited guests to one of the area's biggest attractions, Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. I've heard a lot about this from friends who are big roller coaster fans. It's supposed to be fabulous, Kings Island. Roller coasters, everything else. Unfortunately, Brood 14 of cicadas were so bad this year that they had to tell people going on rides to make sure they kept their mouths closed. So you didn't get a mouthful of cicada.
That to me is just a free meal at a park because food is expensive there. You want to get a funnel cake? It's like $40.
Good protein in those cicadas.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, several people shared their experiences of cicadas joining them at the amusement park, including Mom Hope Daniels, who shared the moment when her son Oliver realized a cicada landed on him. He loves all things bugs and earth, but when it comes to cicadas, I don't know if it's the legs or whatever, they creep him out. She was one of many sharing their cicada-filled trip to this amusement park. I think we're starting to embrace and make them our friends. We're taking them with us everywhere on roller coasters.
In our hair.
In our hair. Enjoy the cicadas when you're on the ride, but keep your mouth closed.
To me, that's very funny, actually. Chris on the text line says, "What about one in the eye? Ouch!" Absolutely, those things are like hard shell little tacos coming right at you.
So you're still going to be bombarded with cicadas in your face.
But the notion of like, let's think about it. Like, all right, the advice is to keep your mouth closed while being on the roller coaster. You think to yourself, "Okay, I'll just do that." What do you do on a roller coaster when it goes down the big hill?
You scream.
You scream. So can you imagine just a car full of no voices or just nothing? It's dead silence as you're just like,
nobody says a word.
How about we just wait until cicada season is over and then we go?
I'm thinking, what about little Devo helmets?
Little Devo
with a little face shield.
Oh,
and then they can be ping, ping,
and then you can scream
ping.
all you can hear
want. Them, and you can scream, and you can see them bouncing off your shield. I'm trying to help.
Just the notion. I just go back to the conversation we had last year. I love that cicadas have evolved in a way where they come back at odd times. So because predators can't understand
to throw them off.
To throw them
Yes.
off. Like,
Yes.
How do we stay alive? Let's come back in 17
They
years.
will never see us coming.
Exactly.
They will never see us coming.
Unless you're on a roller coaster, then they're coming right for your face.
Apparently, things have gotten a little bit better since last month. But there have been some pretty amusing photos taken because you can always get photos of you riding down there. And everybody's riding with their lips shut going,
Every day this segment's called something, and you wanted to call it the wheel edition. I'm like, I can't spell that. We're having so much fun, I can't.
That wraps up today's edition of
This shouldn't be a thing.
Coming up. News is on the way, followed by Tom Hartman from 11 to 2. Todd Alba. We have Trigby and Pat Kreitlow guest hosting for Todd Alba today. And for Maggie Dawn today from 4 to 6, it's Matt Rothschild and the wonderful Angela Lang.
Love Angela.
Love
Lang
Angela
so much.
as well. So keep it right here. Thank you, Greg and Calvin and all of our engineers. Without you, nothing works. And thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It means the world. I hope you find some joy today and get the chance to share it. News is coming up next. Keep it here on the Civic Media Radio Network, and we'll see you tomorrow.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.